What's up, guys? Just wanted to touch base with y'all today through this video instead of trying to do a full live stream, which we are going to do tomorrow, which we'll get to that in just a minute. But basically, kind of where we're at. You should have finished up your assignment for lesson 5.3 yesterday, or be working on that hopefully today because you don't have another assignment today. So you kind of have today to try to finish up those problems. We're going to talk about a couple of things. So basically, up to this point, we've talked about introducing polynomials, what they are by definition, understanding how to classify those. Then we got into, in the last target, adding, subtracting, and multiplying. So we're going to talk just really quickly about a couple of questions that I had from some different people about the assignment on 5.3, which all should have at this point, whether it was yesterday or today. And then we are going to have a live stream tomorrow. So same time tomorrow. All Algebra 2 is going to be at 2 o'clock tomorrow. So just make plans to be a part of that because we are going to talk about our quiz that's coming on Friday. So we are going to have a quiz this week on Friday. So now as far as the quiz goes, before you get too worked up about that, is it's going to be over 5.1 through 5.4. We're going to start 5.4 today, finish it tomorrow, and then we'll have a quiz over those first 4 sections on Friday. The quiz is going to look like something that we took earlier in the year on Google Forms. So you will have that linked on Google Classroom. So now, as far as the quiz goes, you can use all your resources. So you can use notes, you can use your previous assignments, you can use your book or pictures of the sections in the book that I've posted. You can use the internet. You can use any resource that you have in front of you. But you just can't ask specific questions. So you can't email me and say, Mr. Cox, what's the answer to number 5? Because it's a quiz. So now try to refrain from using something like photo math. I know people are going to do it, but it's just not going to help you at all. So try to actually work through it and do something that's going to be beneficial to you versus just scanning it and getting an answer. So try to refrain from doing that. But we'll talk a little bit more about the quiz tomorrow on the live stream. So, live stream tomorrow at 2. We're going to talk about a couple little things on this video. Hopefully, it'll be pretty short. And we'll talk about your assignment for today at the end. But like I said, we've had a couple questions over some things in 5.3. So, let me... Here. All right. So, the first thing is, like if you look at number 11... Okay, so number 11, when you were looking at that, was not in standard form. So you have 5b subtract 6b to the third plus 2b to the fourth. Okay, and then you are subtracting. So again, in the video that I posted a couple of days ago, you can do subtraction a couple different ways. You can write it vertically on top of each other. You can just understand that what you're doing horizontally. But the second one is 9b to the third plus 4b to the fourth, and then subtract 7. So this is number 11. So like we said, you can do this a couple different ways, but the thing you got to remember the most is that since it is subtraction here, it's not just straight combining like terms. What I tell students, if you're a combining like term person, that's what you like to do. Here's the thing you can do. Just bring down the first expression without the parentheses, because the first expression is not going to change as far as what those signs are, what those terms are. Those aren't going to change. Then, since it is subtraction, you just take the opposite sign. So I'm going to write that right here, of each of these terms in the second parentheses. So when you're looking at, let me kind of separate this a little bit. So when you're looking at 9b to the third, in the parentheses, that is a positive. So when you write it out, it's going to be subtract. In the parentheses, the 4b to the fourth is a positive, so it's going to be subtract 4b to the fourth. And then the 7 is a negative, so it's going to be plus 7. Then you just have an expression that you have to simplify by combining like terms. Then you would say, okay, I have a positive 2b to the fourth and a negative 4b to the fourth. So combine those two. So you get negative 2b b to the fourth. Then you have a negative 6b to the third and a negative 9b to the third. You combine those, gives you negative 15b to the third. Then you have just a 5b. Then you have just a 7. And then you just do plus 7. Okay? And then you have no like terms there. You're finished and you go on. So now there's multiple different ways that you can do that as well. You could stack those on top of each other and make sure you subtract vertically. You can leave them horizontal across, and you can just do the literal subtraction as long as you know if it's a negative in the second parentheses, you subtract a negative, so you're ending up adding that anyway. So whatever way kind of works best for you. Then the other problem are the last two. So let's look at those. So those were 24 and 34. So we're just going to pick one of those to do. Let's say we are looking at 24. So 24 is saying we're taking negative d squared plus 4d plus 3. And we are multiplying that by 3d squared minus 7d plus 6. All right, so if we're looking at this original problem, like we said, FOIL method only works for two binomials, but the basic thought process behind FOIL method can work here. Because essentially what we're having to do is we're having to take every term in that first parentheses and multiply it by every term in the second parentheses. So if we want to do that individually, we can take this negative d squared and multiply that by all three of the terms over here. Then just repeat that process with the middle term and then the last term. Okay? But like I said in the assignment yesterday, you can also use the box method. So it's a 3-term polynomial by a 3-term polynomial. So you have to have 3 on each. Then you can put the first parentheses here and 3, and then the second parentheses down the side. And then you just do the multiplication like you would if it was a 2 by 2. But then what you're going to end up with is a lot more terms that you have to kind of combine into one, right? We're going to look at this. This first one would be negative 3d to the fourth. Then this one would be 12d to the third. And your last one would be 9d to the second. So we're just multiplying all those out. And then again, you could continue to do the second row and the third row, and you can finish that out on your own if you want to. Then once you have that box completely filled, then you just start to combine all the terms. You find all the terms that have to the fourth degree, to the fourth power, and you combine those and you'd bring that out. And then that would be one term in your answer. Then you find all the terms that have third power and so forth, and start to eliminate those until you get those. So again, multiple different ways that you can do that one as well. It's just a matter of finding a way that works for you, like I always tell you, and going ahead and going through with that. So if you have any more specific questions over any of those on the page 349 assignment, just email me, let me know, put a comment on Google Classroom, and I'll do my best to answer that as best I can. So now, just to finish up this video for today, we are going to look at section 5.4. So when we get into 5.4 today, we're going to be looking at factoring and solving polynomial equations. So what I'll do is I'll post the pictures of the section in your book on Google Classroom today. And basically what I want you to do today is to work through and just read through those, maybe take some notes. But the biggest thing to understand is that we're going to be talking about factoring. So factoring just means that we are simplifying and we're pulling it out anything that they all have in common. So, for example, just to do one example altogether, then I'll link the pages and you can go through more of those on your own. let's say we had this this polynomial equation. So we had x cubed plus 2x squared minus 15x. Okay, and of course that's equal to 0. So if we're wanting to factor this, the first thing we're thinking about is, do all three of these terms have anything in common? So hopefully you see that all three of these terms have an x in them. So the basic ideal, the first thing you're looking at is, can I factor anything out? And they all have one x in common. So I'm going to factor out an x from every one of these terms. I can't factor out two x's or an x squared because you look at the third term, it's 15x, so I can't do anything with that. It just has one x. So I factor out one x. If I take one x away from the first term, that x to the third power becomes x to the second. That 2x to the second, I'm taking one of those x's away, it becomes 2x. That subtract 15x, the x is going to be gone. So then I have it right like that. So that's my first step. I factor out anything that they all have in common. Now, if they all three had a coefficient that I could factor out as well, if they all three were divisible by 2, I could factor that out. But the x cubed was just a coefficient of 1, so I couldn't do anything with that. So now, if you look inside the parentheses, now it goes into your multiply add. So when I look into here, I'm thinking, what can I multiply to give me negative 15? But that's going to add to give me positive 2. So you could do, however you did it when we did it in the last unit, you could do a multiply add chart and say, okay, well, negative 15 could be negative 5 times 3. That does give you negative 15, but you add those, it gives you negative 2. Well, we know that's close because we want 2, but we just want positive 2. So then we know, okay, it's going to be positive 5 times negative 3, because then that's going to give me positive 2 as the sum, negative 15 as the product. So now I'm going to break it down even further into those two parentheses. And like we said, it's positive 5 and negative 3. Okay? So your simplified polynomial, the original was this x cubed plus 2x squared minus 15x. Your answer for this one would be that. That is the factored version. Okay, so that's a quick rundown of basically just finding a common factor and starting to pull that out. What I want you to do is to start to read through those sections, or section 5.4. So like I said, I'll link those pages on Google Classroom today. So for today, just read through those pages, look at those examples. I'll probably post like one problem per example if you want to try those, to kind of initiate our conversation tomorrow. So we will have some conversation tomorrow about those problems, and then you'll just kind of have a follow-up assignment to reinforce that. And then your quiz on Friday will be definitely over 5.1 through 5.3. We'll see kind of how far we get in our conversation tomorrow about 5.4, but you are going to start to look at that today. So don't forget, live stream tomorrow, 2 o'clock. Same time as last time. Everybody try to be on to be able to engage in that and ask questions and do what you need to do. And then we will have our quiz on Friday in tomorrow's live stream. Again, that will be what summarizes everything, talks about everything, and makes sure you have an opportunity to ask questions before we have that. So, again, email me if you run into any problems today. Other than that, we'll see you guys tomorrow at 2 o'clock.